Frankfurt was like the United Nations. There was all races of people in Frankfurt. You name it, they were there, and everybody got along like family. So you didn't have to worry about anything, because my mother would tell somebody else's mother that I was in trouble, and things would be straightened out with the families. Oh, I would say about 50 years I lived in Frankfurt. I went to Alexander Henry Elementary School at Paul and Unity, where now stands the Stern School. They tore down the old Henry. I went to the Harding Junior High of Tarsdale and Wakeling, and then I went to Northeast Public at 8th and Lehigh. I graduated from there. When I was born, we were renting a house on Long Street, and we took pride in that house, as far as I know, because I was only a baby then. And anybody that had a rental in that house, my father always rented a house. He never owned a house until we moved to Pear Street. And the house went up for sale, and my sisters and I begged him to buy the house so we could live here in the area. We wouldn't have to move out. And that was between Pear Street was between Mulberry and Tackawanna. And on Tackawanna and Gillingham, there was a big factory, the SS White Dental, where they made dental equipment. And that was a noisy thing. You could hear banging all day, and it stopped at night. And I felt sorry for the people who lived next door to the SS White Dental. All my memories are good. Just when you grow up in a safe environment, you're very relaxed, and you have nothing to worry about, not like today, where you can't even walk out the door without somebody pulling a gun on you or anything like that. But nobody owned guns then, and everything was great. Even during the Second World War years, it was great because everybody got along. This is an armband which I wore during the Second World War for collecting papers, scrap iron, and all that throughout Frankfurt and part of Breisberg, which we did go down Orthodox Street to sell for scrap for the war effort. And it was started with little Orphan Annie in the Inquirer, where she had the Inquirer Junior Commandos. And that's what this is, the Inquirer Junior Commandos, and that's what we were called. And we used to get our wagons and go around the neighborhoods in Frankfurt and other places and collect everything we could for the war effort. There's a lot of things I can remember about Frankfurt, but the stuff isn't there now. There used to be a train to come in from, they would back the train in, and you could get the train at between Sellers and Unity, in the middle, right where the gasworks, where you pay your bills at. There was a Reading Railroad steps going up to a platform, and that was before they built the Unity Frankfurt warehouse in back of it. And that railroad spur came in from where Sears and Roebuck's was on the boulevard and Adams Avenue. In Frankfurt, at Wilmarth Park, where Kensington Avenue and Frankfurt Avenue split, there was a big round circle horse trough where the horses used to drink out of for the water. The city had it, and that was when they had trash collectors on horse and wagon. And them guys were workers. They took a can of ashes that you had from your furnace, and they took that and they put it on their shoulder. Well, when they first started out with the wagons, it was all right because there was only one piece of wood going across to hold the ashes in where they could drop it up. But when they had to take it and throw it up into the wagon to a guy on the top where he could dump it and drop it down, they were trash men. And they didn't get paid hardly anything. It's a shame. They worked hard. I just couldn't believe the way this city was run, really. The Yellow Jacket Stadium was down at G and Erie, where they had midget auto racers, and they had football games too. And at nights, if you were sleeping, trying to sleep with your windows open, and they were sort of facing the same direction as Erie Avenue, you could hear the racing cars going around the oval. Room, and that was a funny sensation. Every store on Frankford Avenue that was the owners lived above the store. So they kept the store, they kept everything neat, everything was great, and I don't know, it was just one big happy family. When I was younger, you could walk on Frankford Avenue at night, like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and nobody would bother you, because they had a lot of movie houses on Frankford. They had the Ace, the Circle, the Frankfurt movie, the Roosevelt movie, and up at Bridge Street, the L stop, they had the Forum Theater. Now the Devon Theater up further on Frankfurt Avenue came in later in the years. But all that movie houses there, out of all of them, the Circle was the best and the prettiest. It had a balcony. It was beautiful. When you walked down the side aisles, you were separated from the people sitting down with pillars running down to hold up the balcony upstairs. Between Margaret and Fulcrot, there was like an alleyway that you could walk between houses and the Frankfurt Theater to get to the street and back. You went down and then you came back up, like in the theater where you would go down, and there were doors for the Frankfurt Theater where you could go in, exit doors really. And there also was a little shopping center between Frankfurt Avenue and Oxford Avenue. That ran, it's up around where it ran from Margaret and Frankfurt Avenue to Fulcrot Street. And you could walk through there, and there were stores inside this, I don't know what they called it, but you could walk through it and you could do your shopping in them stores. We always went to a drugstore where he sold sodas, where you would get the soda fountain sodas, and they were good, and it was a black man. And we all went to him to buy our sodas, and he lived right across the street from, it was on Orthodox Street and Talcahuano, and it was right across the street from Jewish People's Hardware Store. I can't remember their name. They had a hardware store across the street, so that's why I say it was like the United Nations. We had all kinds of nationalities. The Italian immigrants started coming in, and over in Italy, when you went to church, you didn't have to pay in an envelope to the church because it came out of your taxes in Italy. So these people weren't paying into the church, so the Irish people got together. They bought property across from the 15th district at Paul and Church, and they built a church over there, Mala della Rosa, and they told the Catholic, the Italian people to come to that church. So that's why Mala della Rosa and St. Joachim's are so close together. If a man ain't got a gun today, he ain't a man. When I was a boy, no man had a gun. A man was a man if he stood up and had a fist fight with a guy, and if he lost, he lost. That was the end of it. It wasn't continue on, because after all, we had people there. And when I went to elementary school, you went to church, you went to school in the morning, you came home in the afternoon for lunch, then you went back to school in the afternoon, and you come home at 3:30. So I always said, you had to fight your way to and from church if you were in trouble. Now, there was a family there, Italian family, that had 9 boys. And if you fought one, you had to fight every brother. But it wasn't that you got beat up to a pulp. It was when you said you had enough, that was the end of the fight. Until the next day, you had to go with the other brother. And if you beat him, that was the end of the fight. That's the way it was. I mean, it was, I don't know, just, if you got tired and you said you didn't want to fight no more, that was the end of the fight. That was it, period. And the Northeast Boys Club on Kinzie Street, between Hedge and Mulberry, you know, you're playing basketball in there, you're playing other teams from other boys clubs. You got in fights, but that was the end of it. When you left that club, you sometimes you could go back because you were a troublemaker, but so there, you know, we always had troublemakers in a gang or something. But that's the way it was in my time. They had houses down around Whitehall, where back at the Hardy School where the Whitehall Commons is, and they moved them black people out. Well, there were black and whites in them houses down here, and they moved them people out just to build a project. And when they did that, they brought in a very, very low class of people coming into the project, and Frankford started going down after that. And we lived on 1809 Kinzie Street when I was in my teens going to high school. And when my father sold the house, when they built the projects, he bought a place down in North Wildwood. And I got married, and I bought a house up in Tacony, where I'm living now. And Tacony's going down just like I can see Tacony going down just like Frankford did. It's a shame that this city allows people to buy a house and then rent them to anybody they want. And these people aren't registered to vote. And these people just don't give a darn about the neighborhood. Now, we got 5 houses in a row. They're all rentals. They don't know when to put their trash out. They don't know how to recycle. And they don't care about anybody else but themselves. If there's people in the mural, I like to see them all smiling, because that's the way it was. Everybody was happy. There was no enemies, no nothing. Black, white, indifference, it doesn't matter. Frankford is family.